Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you for joining us for this informational video for the 2026 SACNAS nominations process. My name is Charlotte Lambert. I'm the Director of Career Advancement and Scientific Engagement at Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory in New York. I'm the immediate past president of SACNAS, and for the purpose of today, I'm chairing the nominations subcommittee. So I'm really pleased to be with you on this video and help walk you through some of the parts of the nominations process that might be helpful if you're considering submitting nomination materials this year or maybe in a future year. What the purpose of today is to just provide an overview of what the nominations process is like. And we have a couple of current board members here on the video with us. And what they're going to do is provide additional context, provide personal perspectives, a little bit more information than you might get just from reading through a lot of the information that's in the nominations webpage right now. How things are going to work out, I'm going to start by giving just some broad introductory overview information of what the nominations process is typically like, some dates to keep in mind, and then we're going to go to each of the current board members for their introductions and their, sort of piece of the process that they're going to provide kind of more context in their own personal stories to add to. This video will be located on the nominations webpage for as long as the nomination system is open this year. It has dates that are very specific to 2026. So if you made it this far, then you're in the right place. All of the information that you need for submitting nomination materials is right here, including this video. All right, so I am going to start by telling you a little bit about the nominations subcommittee. It's a subcommittee of the governance committee of the board. It's tasked every year with two big charges: reviewing and discussing the applications and recommending a slate of nominees. So what this means is that each year there's a pool of nominees that come through the nominations process. All of the materials that we ask you for, the nominations subcommittee is charged with looking through all of them and recommending a smaller slate, usually, of nominees. And the slate of nominees is what you end up voting for during election time later in the year. The purpose of this kind of secondary process to put together a slate of nominees is to really take what the board needs in a given year. So the board might need expertise or lots of experience in governance, in national presence, in fundraising, in very specific projects that they know are coming up. And so the nomination subcommittee takes what the board needs every year, looks at the pool of nominees based on those criteria, and that's what determines kind of the assessment criteria that you've seen if you've looked through what's on the nominations website so far. And so from the pool, the nomination subcommittee puts together, recommends a slate of nominees, that goes to the board. So what this means from you is that the nominations criteria that you see currently is what the nominations committee looks for. We look for current SACNAS membership and sort of varying levels, but usually like substantive experience with a lot of things. So one is a SACNAS mission. And so that the SACNAS mission can kind of come through and work very specifically in SACNAS committees, in events, in mentorship, in local chapters and community gatherings, or it can come through in experience with other sort of mission-aligned organizations or work. We're also looking for experience with organizational governance, so being a leader and being involved in sort of team-based governance of organizations that have committees, subcommittees, task forces to help run the work of the organization. And this can happen on your local level within your institution. It can happen kind of regionally in your local community. It can also happen nationally with national organizations like your home scientific society, for example. We're also looking for candidates who can bring to the board professional relationships, so people who have networks with national organizations, companies, funding agencies that align well with the programs and services that SACNAS has, and also the way that SACNAS is funded. And we're looking for candidates with experience in team-based leadership. Everything that happens at the board happens in kind of a very democratic, service-oriented way. And so people who are used to and have experience with working on teams where everybody brings, sort of their strengths and their expertise in order to achieve a goal to get work done. That's the kind of environment that nominees will be walking into on the board if they're elected, and therefore the people that we're looking for, good candidates for the board. One of the other big nominations criteria is sort of representation. So we want to make sure that because the SACNAS board is a membership-based board, it represents the membership in addition to sort of governing the organization. That we're looking for people who are on the board that represent all the different kind of facets of the SACNAS membership. And so each year we look for people who tend to be, sort of from groups that are underrepresented on the board, people from the physical sciences and engineering, always really, really strongly encouraged to apply for or nominate themselves for positions on the board. People who are in sort of non-academic sectors like nonprofit and industry, just because more and more of our membership are seeking careers inside academia, but also outside of academia. And so it's really important to have that representation on the board. And we also always strongly encourage people from rural institutions, community colleges, and from kind of four-year institutions that are really student-centered, not necessarily all research-intensive institutions. And we do that, again, just to make sure that all the different sectors of the SACNAS membership are really well represented in board decisions. So when we think about SACNAS board service, I think this is some of the language that you see on the nominations website. Why would somebody want to run for the SACNAS board? And we like to say that it's a way to get back to SACNAS by ensuring effective governance of the organization, strategic planning, which is happening this year, working in partnership with the SACNAS staff, ensuring financial sustainability and responsibility. That's a huge part of the work that the board does. And then also just serving as kind of a powerful, visible representative and voice for SACNAS and the work that it does. So all of that is well and good, but it's always really, really helpful to have kind of a personal take on what SACNAS service, SACNAS board service means. And so for that, I'd like to invite into the conversation Dr. Heilani Chang. She's native Hawaiian. She's a program director and associate research specialist faculty at the University of Hawaii Manoa. And she is also the current SACNAS president in 2025 and 2026. So this is her second year as your president on the SACNAS board. So I wanted to bring Heilani in and give you a little bit of an introduction to her if you haven't met her before, and then also her take on why somebody would want to run for the SACNAS board.
Aloha, Charlotte. Thank you for that introduction. I appreciate it. Aloha, everyone. Heilani Chang. I guess I would like to share why I'm interested in having a particular type of persons apply for a nomination for the committee. We're looking for strong membership participation. And I guess the way I saw it when I first put my name into the hat to be a board member is my responsibility and my privilege to serve for this organization that has given so much to me career-wise, my students, and it continues to give back. It continues to give to me over all the years, and so I want to continue always to invite people to participating and also learn from this, gain from this, and then to give back. There's always a saying about when you join a committee or a society, you want to leave it a little better than when you first joined it. And I think I definitely feel that I'm able to do that because of the commitment of the other members that I have on the board, to interact with, to learn from, and to share. They have shared their lived experiences with me as I have shared with them and their experiences. And that in many ways has advanced my own career professionally, uh, and personally in careers, and being a stronger mentor for my students. I got involved because I was a program director with National Institutes of Health research training grants and workforce development programs. And that showed me how important it is for memberships in a society that supports not only the science that you're participating in, or the research or the education you're participating in, but SACNAS stood out because it also allowed me to bring my culture. And it wasn't something you left at the door. It was culture and science from the very beginning. So that's what I would encourage you to bring to the board. That's what we're looking for in your specialities and in your lived experiences, to share that with us to advance our organization. Um, as far as um, fiduciary responsibilities, I think I'll focus on that one, and maybe the next screen might show what we're talking about. Each board member is asked to contribute to the financial sustainability of their organization. We are a nonprofit organization, yet we collect membership and partnership sponsorship donations. And this helps us to provide the best quality experiences for our STEM science and education students and professional members. But it takes, money to put on a great program year round, and a great conference, our annual conference. And so this year, for instance, the board members voted to have a goal of personal contributions from the board of $20,000. Each year it will be different with the board, but it's a commitment, and it's an opportunity and a privilege, again, as I said, to serve and to be a part of an organization has done so much for me that, I really can't put any dollars to it. I just feel like I'm just making small deposits to the students and the professionals who come after me, so they can have the same experience and more, and really move up and assume those leadership positions and advancement in their careers that we see that they can assume and leave this nation and our science field. So financial contributions are important. Unrestricted contributions, a little bit more important, because then the society can move that money to where it's needed the most. Is it student training? Is it organizational support, technology, whatever. So think about serving, think about, giving back. And number one, it's been a whole lot of fun being on the board. So I hope you consider being a board member. Put your nomination in. Thank you.
Well said, Helani. Yeah, I can't agree more. The so the $20,000 that Helani mentioned, it's a collective goal for everybody on the board, and so it would come out to, about $1,500 a year per person, give or take, with special dispensation for the graduate student members on the board for sure, who we know um, will not be able to give that amount while they're graduate students. The whole goal is to just get 100% giving from board members, and to be able to do that in a way that feels really significant. So the $1,000 to $1,500 a year that we gave during my term on the board, similar to Helani, it was easy because SACNAS had already invested in me to go through the LPSLI and paid for everything. They had invested in me to go through the Advanced Leadership Institute. They invested in me when I was a postdoc to be able to come to the conference on a travel scholarship. And so the idea of being able to kind of pay it forward and allow those opportunities to exist for students and postdocs who are coming through was an easy decision. So the financial contribution is a really important part of it being a board member, because it contributes to the financial, sort of stability of SACNAS as a whole, and it's also a really concrete way for everybody on the board to kind of pay it forward.
Yeah. Thank you, Charles.
So next, I'd like to bring into the conversation Dr. Giovanna Guerrero-Medina. She's the Assistant Director for Professional Development and Community in Yale University's Wussai Institute, and also Director of Collaborative Excellence in the Yale School of Medicine. She's currently Secretary on the board and also Chair of the Programs Committee. So Giovanna, if there's anything that you want to kind of introduce about yourself and your time with SACNAS and sort of your service on the board so far.
Yeah, so I've been with the board for about a year and a half already. I decided to run for the board because the organization, like many of us, has given me so much. I've been attending the SACNAS conference since 2014, and I quickly saw a home both spiritually for me as well as scientifically and professionally. I've been able to make a lot of important connections with people that I admire, I respect, that are mentors, that are, role models. And my career is dedicated to supporting faculty and trainees, and SACNAS is just such a wonderful resource for me to do that part of my work. I was also leaving the leadership of another nonprofit, and so I finally had the time and the space to dedicate to SACNAS, and I took a chance and ran for the board.
Nice. Yes, and for those of you who are keeping score, that other nonprofit was a little organization called Scientia Puerto Rico. And so SACNAS was very, very lucky that when Giovanna stepped down from leading that organization, she had the bandwidth to sort of bring all of her expertise to the SACNAS board. So Giovanna, can you talk a little bit more about the time commitment that is entailed in being a SACNAS board member?
Yes, concretely, if you can go to the next slide, board members are expected to attend board meetings. These basically come out to be one or two in-person meetings per year at different locations in the United States, very often one at the conference and one at the next conference location so that we can see it in advance and prepare for that. And then in addition, 4 to 5 video conference meetings. So it averages to be about one meeting every other month for the board. And as you heard, I'm the chair of the programs committee. Each board member is expected to get involved in a significant way with at least one committee or subcommittee, usually chairing that committee or sometimes co-chairing it. And you might also be assigned various projects upon request, and in a way that leverages your skills, talents, and connections. And so, for example, this year I'm part of the strategic planning workforce. So basically, it means that you need to be organized, you need to be responsive in order to take a position on the board. There's a lot of scheduling requests, and it always helps to answer those promptly. But I will say that as board members, we get a lot of support from the excellent SACNA staff. We have a wonderful board liaison, Marilu Chavez, who's been with SACNAS for a long time and really supports the board work. And we also have really great committee board liaisons that are members of the SACNA staff. And then the other point I'll make is that while we are an active board with important service expectations, service is fun. I actually look forward to these meetings. They're kind of the highlight of my week or my month because I get to work and interact with people that I admire, I respect, I like, and because of the mission is so important to me. So I would say if you want a position that will develop your leadership, that will give you an exciting opportunity to make a big difference on the scientific workforce in this country, I really encourage people to submit their nomination.
Well said. I'm so glad that you brought up the SACNAS staff because it really, really is a treat to be able to work with all of the professionals who are on the staff, Marilu Chavez, and all of the senior staff members who end up being the kind of liaisons and often help keep us organized and direct us within the committee work. And so being able to work with the staff is like such a highlight of being on the board. You get to see all of the people who make the organization run. All right, so thank you for that, Giovanna. I'm going to invite Larissa Saiz into the conversation. She's a PhD student in cell and molecular biology at the University of Houston, one of two current graduate student members representatives, not graduate student members, which you'll find out in just a second, graduate student member representatives on the board. Larissa, do you want to add anything else to your introduction and your time with SACNAS and on the board?
Yeah, Piali, my name is Larissa, and like Charla said, I'm a PhD student at the University of Houston. I'm native Mexica, and I've been involved with SACNAS since I was an undergraduate. Came to my first SACNAS conference in 2018. And then when we came back, I helped establish the University of Houston SACNAS chapter, which has won multiple awards. And I served as president for 7 years. So that was my involvement with SACNAS before I joined the board. And I did end up joining the board not because I thought I could do it, but because someone else thought that I could do it. So probably like most of the graduate student members, um, running for the board didn't really cross my mind until one of our faculty advisors for our chapters brought it up and said, like, I think you would be really good for this. And I just didn't see it in myself until he said something about it. So he encouraged me to nominate myself. I did, and I ended up being elected. And this is my third year on the board right now.
So, Larissa, can you talk about in your experience, the importance of sort of the graduate student voice in the kind of work that the board does?
Yeah, so student members make up the bulk of the SACNAS membership, so it's really important for us to be involved in the governance of the organization because the organization is largely serving student membership. Um, it's also really important because graduate students kind of experience life in academia differently than professors, administrators, or alumni. So we have a really different insight into things than other members of SACNAS do. And that perspective can really help the board make decisions about things that are more equitable and more responsive to the current realities that exist in academia. And then another point that I want to really drive home is that we are not considered like junior members or not full members of the board. I think myself and the graduate student representative that trained me when I joined the board have both been like trendsetters, change makers, making waves, profound changes in the organization that you wouldn't think that a graduate student representative would make. So don't come into this thinking like, oh, my voice isn't going to matter. I'm not going to be able to do anything because you can be the change that you want to see in the organization. So make the most out of it.
Excellent point. Thank you so much, Larissa. So, yes, graduate student members on the SACNAS board, there's two in any given time. And they are considered full members of the SACNAS board, and that is the case very specifically for the reason that Larissa laid out. It's because SACNAS serves student members as a huge part of its programs and services, and so it's really important, very necessary to be able to have a student voice on the board and have that sort of written into the way that the board works. We are lucky because on today's video, we have not just Larissa, but we also have our second current student board member, Dr. Jose Cepeda. He's a postdoctoral scientist at the Howard Hughes Medical Institute's Janelia Research Campus. He was elected to the board when he was a PhD student in pharmacology at Vanderbilt University. If you take a look at how elections work, our graduate student representatives are elected when they are graduate students. And so if you happen to graduate and move on to your next step, as Jose did during his 3-year service, that's okay. He's still considered, sort of a voice of the graduate student, a graduate student representative and a voice for students on the board, even though he has now moved on into his postdoctoral career. So I want to invite Jose into the conversation for a little bit more about him.
Yeah, thanks so much for the introduction. Um, so actually, I hadn't realized this, but Larissa, actually, I also attended the 2018 conference for the first time in San Antonio. Um, uh, a year prior to that, as a sophomore undergrad, I joined our university SACNAS chapter, which was advised by Adan Colon Carmona, Dr. Colon Carmona, who would end up being one of the most important mentors in my life. And so I got to be a co-coordinator of the chapter and then later start a chapter at Vanderbilt University. And so when I learned that student members could participate on the board of directors, I very much saw it as a way of giving back to an organization that's done so much for me. And so it was a really easy decision to make. I think I had already participated in a committee before and sort of got to see sort of the behind the scenes of what leading an organization like this could be like, and also learning about how SACNistas offline are doing so much work. They're the boots on the ground for a lot of these initiatives that we all um, admire and participate in. And so, yeah, that's the reason that I joined the board, and I'm very happy to get to be a part of this.
So Jose, can you talk a little bit about sort of the expectations of graduate student members on the SACNAS board?
Yeah, so as Larissa alluded to, as a graduate student board member, you are a full member, so you're expected to attend all meetings, to contribute meaningfully to discussion. And this also will involve being involved in different committees. So maybe your first year, like me, you might participate in a committee, but later on you might be tasked with more responsibilities and even lead a committee yourself as a graduate student. And so, personally, I think that one of the coolest things about SACNAS is that it allows for this experience, that it values student perspectives. And I feel that as a student member, I've been able to learn so much about things such as governance and organization. Um, and so, with that said, I do think that it's a significant commitment, but I do believe that it's one that's very rewarding and worth it. Like Giovanna said, well, these meetings, they don't feel like work sometimes, just because of the awesome people that will participate in this organization on committees and in the board. And so, yeah, I encourage you to throw your hat in the ring, and we look forward to reviewing your application.
Fantastic. And just to provide a little bit of concreteness on Larissa and Jose's comments. So Larissa, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, the 3 years that she has been on the board, or the 2.5 now, she has chaired or co-chaired the chapter subcommittee, and Jose rotated on as co-chair. So the two of them are the current co-chairs of the chapter subcommittee, which oversees the programming around chapters at the conference each year, creates guidelines like some of the ones you may have taken advantage of, applications for creating um, regional community gatherings. Um, they oversee the process for working with new chapters and approving their applications. And so both of them have been really, really instrumental. You heard a little bit about their deep experience with chapters as students, and they got to bring that to the board and sort of co-chair the chapter subcommittee and help lead that work from the board level. You want to add something, Larissa?
Yeah, I do want to add that it can become a lot if you are tapped to be on multiple different committees. So for example, I'm serving on the Native American Indigenous Affairs Committee as well as chairing chapters. And I've been tapped as well alongside Giovanna for the Strategic Planning Task Force. So something that I've learned since I'm defending the summer and things have gotten to be kind of a lot in my personal like research and stuff like that is that it's really okay to set boundaries and say like, hey, I can't do this right now. I don't have the capacity for that. I'm willing to do this, this, and this, but I can't do this, this, and this. Definitely keep healthy boundaries and make sure that although you're meeting the expectations of a board member, you're not burning yourself out.
Love it. Thank you so much for that comment, Larissa. I feel like that is applicable to the student members as well as the general members of the board. All right, so thank you to all of the board members who are here to provide the personal context. I'm just gonna wrap up this video in the next couple of slides. So the 2026 elections timeline, we're off and running. So the nomination system has been open since mid-May. And it'll be open a full 2 months. July 19th is going to be the deadline. And so if you're thinking about submitting nomination materials, please take a look at the system, kind of plan it out, and make sure you get everything in by the July 19th. That gives you, today is May 27th. And so it's about 6 weeks from now, 6 or 7 weeks from now, to give potential candidates time to contact one of us, ask us questions, sort of think through what their materials might be, their answers to the open-ended questions, how they align with the kind of the assessment criteria that's laid out that the board looks for every year. So please do keep July 19th in mind. That's the deadline for submitting nomination materials for this year's cycle. Once that happens, the nomination subcommittee meets in August to kind of go through the entire pool and develop a slate of candidates that's then recommended to the board for elections. And the whole goal of that is anybody who ends up on the slate, it's always such a really interesting, rich discussion to put the slate together. It often comes down to, sort of what would the board need right now? There's always so many great candidates who nominate themselves. And we encourage everybody, if they don't make it on the slate or if they don't get elected in 1 year, to revisit it in the next year. There have been many instances of people who've made it onto the board after nominating themselves 2 or 3 times, and the timing on the second or third time works out with what the board needs and what they can bring to the board. So the developing the slate and recommending it to the board happens in August. And between August and October, what happens is the people who are made it onto the slate will be contacted by some combination of me, Marilu Chavez, to get you ready for election, what the expectations for the election season are. Everybody else will be contacted to sort of talk through how they think about sort of SACNAS board service. Is there other ways that their skills can be utilized in SACNAS, maybe volunteering for a committee, things like that. The election system will open the week of the conference when we all gather in Long Beach, hopefully, this fall. And so it opens that week and it's open for 1 month. I think it will close right before, the deadline is right before the Thanksgiving holiday. So lots of communication will come out about that later in the year. But just to sort of finish this off, in December, that's when the election results are announced to the candidates and also to the membership and those who are elected. The work starts almost immediately to sort of get them oriented and ready to go so that their term can start smoothly on January 1st. One final thing, so these are places, either the board nominations webpage. You can email elections@sacnas.org for more information. So the webpage, the information, if you can feel free, I will just say this for myself, you can feel free to find me on LinkedIn and ask me questions. I can let you know or connect you with anybody that I think might help some of the questions that you have if you're thinking about nominating yourself this year or in a maybe next year or future year. Yes, I think that's it. One thing that I do want to leave you with is one of the reasons why we had 2 graduate students on today's video is because graduate student seat on the board is up for election this year. And so for all of you who are graduate students thinking about nominating yourself, the graduate student election seat is up for election this year. In addition to that, there are 4 regular seats, general seats, professional seats that we call. So those are the 5 seats that are available for election. The next presidential election will happen next year in 2027. Larissa, final thoughts?
Yes. Also, if you're a faculty member or professional that knows of a student that would be really good for this, who's in SACNAS, please let them know because,
Love it.
like me, they might not think that they have what it takes, and it might take a little push from someone else.
Absolutely. Yes. I can't agree with that more. Both the times that I have served on the board as a professional member, as a general board member, and also the 4-year term that I did with a presidential term in it. One of my colleagues also convinced me. And so your point is so important, Larissa, and it's also very, very true for professional members. And so those of you who are out there who think you know a good student who'd be a great student candidate on the board, or even one of your colleagues who'd be a really great candidate for a general seat, please do talk to your colleagues and plant some seeds so that they think that they can see themselves in board service. All right, any final thoughts? Any other final thoughts from those of us on the call? All right, I think we got through everything. So thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. Please feel free to reach out to the website, the email. You can find me if you have any questions and submit your nomination materials July 19th. Thank you very much.